Hey, everybody, welcome to the 12-cent Treehouse. If you saw me doing this, I was following the little thing loading up the show. I am Sean McLaughlin, writer-producer, here as always with the lovely and talented Scott Collins.
Hey, everybody.
Who is a brilliant artist. You can see some of his work down in the bottom. The equally lovely and talented Stephen Jones.
Do you want to build a tree house?
Also a huge talent as a cartoon animation designer and comic book artist. And Jeff Johnson, who's just lovely.
Thank you, guys.
Just lovely.
Have you guys ever had a treehouse? Do you guys ever? I remember making a treehouse out of cardboard and sticks and falling quite far out of the treehouse when I was around 7. A bunch of neighborhood kids and I built one, and it was not sound. It's not structurally sound at all.
You didn't have a permit or anything?
No. Noli Kemp and I had a very similar situation up in Ontario, Canada, over one summer, and we got caught building it on someone else's property and got shooed off it. So we decided it would be better to build a sand fort.
Oh,
because what two 5-year-olds need is hundreds of pounds of sand on top of it.
Yeah, right. Where to have a search. No, back in the day, I don't know who would have searched for us. I don't know if that was,
after a few weeks,
organized enough. Yeah.
When there was no crawdad, we ate sand.
You ate what?
You ate sand.
Noli's sister, who was 8 years older than us and babysat us occasionally, said that when we grew up and went away to college, her dad looked at her once and said, "Thank God Sean and Noel grew up and lived."
Yeah. I remember once, I just think that's funny now, like in an age before helmets or even really medicine at all, I broke my elbow skateboarding, and I had to walk home with like a broken elbow. And then only when my mom was sure it was broken, not just hurt, that's when we went
slapped
to
it a
the
couple
hospital.
times.
Yeah.
How was it? Really, it was super painful, wasn't it?
No, I did basically that little bone in there. I jumped something on my skateboard and landed badly and did one of those falls where you're stiff on it. And so I just cracked it a little bit. It wound up. I just was in a sling for a while. It wasn't that bad, but it hurt. It really hurt. All right. Well,
so today,
yeah,
we're going to talk about.
We're going to talk about like the fun idea of revamping a character as sort of writing exercise, an intellectual exercise, or even sort of just a fun pastime to do. And so, what would you do with an old character? And you say sometimes this is the dream. Like you get a job at, say, Marvel, and they're like, "Well, we're bringing back," and I'll just use my case as an example. We're bringing back the Human Fly. We want you to.
The who?
Exactly. Well, I have some familiarity with this prospect because I worked on Wonder Man, which is a book a character no one thought should have his own book, right? But when Fabian got handed the thing, he hired a writer and he asked me to do it. But like there was a reimagining.
Fabian Nicieza, co-creator of Deadpool, writer of the X-Men, New Warriors, and many other great comics, FYI, for our readers.
Oh, that Fabian.
That Fabian. Yeah, he's quite
I thought you were
famous.
talking about I thought you were talking about the 1950s pop singer Fabian.
I have a passing familiarity with his work. But so it almost never happens, but sometimes you're asked to revamp a character, right? And so I always think it's a fun thing. So we are going to talk about that, and I'm going to do the Human Fly. Like if say I got the gig and I'm writing and drawing the Human Fly, how would I update him or make him more interesting? He was a favorite of mine when I was a kid. And you always have that dream conversation in your head when Editor goes like, "Well, you have a free ticket. What do you want to do?"
Yeah.
And so this is the one I would have in my pocket. What about you, Sean?
I am going to do. I have wrestled. I had 3 that I talked to you guys about, and they were Namor, Dollman.
Who's
Quality Hero.
Dollman?
Dollman was a quality comics character from the 40s that DC revived in the 80s as part of the Freedom Fighters.
That's right, baby.
He was Daryl Dane, a scientist who was able to shrink down to the size of a doll and maintain his weight and strength. So it was, if he got punched by this little guy, it was like getting hit by a bullet. And the best part about him was that he didn't get around in a dollmobile. He got around on the back of a huge Great Dane.
Oh, he rode a giant. Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is half of your draw for the story.
Right.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
But I decided on the Star Brand from
Starbrand.
New Universe.
The Marvel New Universe well, you can talk more about it, but like there were other characters in that line, right? There was
DP7. Don't forget about DP7.
I like DP7.
DP7 was one that actually lasted a little bit longer than most of the line.
I think Night Mask, I believe.
Night Mask.
Good Lord.
Kickers, the football superhero.
Oh yeah, Kickers.
Wait, wasn't it
Don't
Kickers?
say, oh yeah, Kickers.
Wasn't it Kickers
I remember.
Inc?
Kickers Inc.
Kickers Inc.
Yeah, I'll do my revamps. Thank you, Stephen. But yes,
Yeah.
I believe it was Kickers Inc.
Yeah.
Which I don't believe I ever read an issue of. I read the others, but I really like Starbrand. John Romita Jr.
I like Starbrand
and
too.
Al Williamson art, and it seemed to be one of the stronger
Right
concepts from the time.
Right outside your window.
So that's mine. Scott, what are you doing?
Completely on a lark, only because when Jeff proposed this idea, this just tagline came out of my head, so that I'm gonna try this one. I'm gonna redo Pinocchio, or come up with ideas for Pinocchio, but it was only because I had come up with the initial tagline for it was, "He never wanted to be a real boy."
It's great.
And that to me just sounds immediately too much fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things I love about it, and I know, so Jones, if you were to do one.
No, look, all right. Let me I don't know if I should share my spiel right before we launch into this game. Maybe I should just save mine for the end.
I mean, it's your dance card. You can choose when you want to go.
All right. Let me momentarily be a voice of a grumpiness and a dissent here.
Momentarily?
Everyone get ready. Put your seatbelts on.
I like that, Sean.
Wait, my Xanax is in the other room, so speak slow.
On the one hand, I 100% think this is fun. Number 2, the entire, particularly comic book, to a large degree, animation or film industry wouldn't exist without corporations paying people like ourselves, or people smarter, funnier, more talented than us, there's like 3 of them, to do this sort of thing. But then like, to momentarily just be my but then there's part of me that's a bit over it, I guess, and looking at it more from the point of view of like, oh, okay, so for the sake of a paycheck, why don't we all show up and help these corporations retain their their coffers and redo, I'm very happy for the overall comics industry in general. Like let's say that the absolute books at DC are doing so well right now, and that they've really brought in a ton of readers in the same way that the Ultimate books did 20 something years ago at Marvel or something. And
isn't that crazy? That's 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It is nuts.
Over 20. It's kind of like it's this strange time in sort of creative storytelling history that we come in, where there's all these, like, hey, and we see this now too. Tons of creators come in and do like, well, I'm going to do my version of Alice in Wonderland or Sherlock Holmes, or, even Alan Moore doing League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, with all these things that have entered the public domain, right? Because, but then, and then because all these corporations have kind of been involved in the purchasing of these characters that were created by humans, like now they've found these ways to sort of extend the deadline on things becoming part of the public domain.
Yeah.
And so there, I guess, so why I'm being a little bit Mr. Grumpy Pants is when you guys said, hey, here's the suggestion, here's the topic for the weekend, here's our suggestions, and my brain kind of started to go like, well, what would I want to do if I was asked to do this? And if someone backed up a big pile of money to my house right now, I'm saying this now all highfalutin, I imagine I would engage my problem-solving storytelling brain if someone said, look, we want you to do a new version of, I don't know, randomly Luke Skywalker, because Scott's got the Jawa up there or something. But
Sure.
In general, I'm a lot more interested at the moment in like trying to come up with like, what's my new idea, or at the very least pulling a little bit of a Kurt Busiek and that team on Astro City, or Robert Kirkman and those guys with Invincible, or something where you go like, okay, let me at least do, like, Invincible does not exist if not for Superman,
Right.
True. Right.
Walking Dead doesn't exist if not for Night of the Living Dead. Astro City doesn't exist if not for all of Marvel and DC Comics. Same with 1963.
Watchmen doesn't exist without the
the Charlton
League
character.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like, but to me, I'd be more interested in trying to go like, hey, how could I come up with my own version of Flash Gordon or blah, blah, or whatever, rather than, like I said, now it's easy for me to say because no one from Marvel, DC, or Mad Cave is coming up to me saying, hey, we really want you to inject some new life into your interpretation. If someone put a gun to my head, I actually quite liked what Sean tried to do with Aquaman 20, however many years ago. And if someone said, hey,
20,
hey, let's not focus too much on math here. But if someone was like, hey, how about you and Sean try to look at Aquaman again and take some of the stuff that Sean tried to do but was thwarted for a number of different reasons, and now you put it through a different filter again. But generally, I think so I found my brain just getting grumpy and being like, I don't want to answer this question. You know what I want to do? I want to go draw this thing over here that I own that isn't a part of some giant corporate blah, blah, blah.
I mean, I 100% agree with that sentiment and think that that is you should always be creating your own thing. I do think one of the reasons this exercise is fun, I think there's two reasons this exercise is fun. One, Scott just recently did this with the Blue Beetle, right? So like,
kinda. He'd already been revamped before I got to him.
Yeah, but you and Keith worked out new stuff, new villains, all kinds of new.
In some ways, I did more of that on Flash because we actually did like revamp like Zoom from Reverse Flash and stuff like that. But yeah, it's something that happens.
But I do think that one of the things, like if you were trying to tell, let's just take Invincible as an example, because I do think it couldn't exist without Superman, but it is different. Like Kirkman clearly came up and those guys clearly came up with like, well, if we were going to do a new Superman, what would it be? And finding out what you love about that character and what's popular, but figuring out some way to make it your own, I do think is, because then you could just change the name and be like, oh, I revamped Superman, but now it's Invincible.
I've never talked to Robert Kirkman about it, but I imagine that Invincible is an exercise in going, what if Superman was, like, it's a little bit of what James Gunn decided to do in the new Superman, film, in terms of going like, oh, what if Jor-El and Kara, weren't Lara, thank you, sorry. Kara Supergirl. My apologies to all Kryptonians out there.
There's more than you would think.
Indeed.
They keep popping up.
I remember when there was just one.
But yes, but look, all of this might have just been like, you know, I was given a homework assignment by my teacher, and then I went, you know, I don't want to. I think it's unethical to write about corporate, you know, whatever, you know. But
Right.
I think that was my.
Character.
Yeah, exactly. But
I'm sorry, I'm moving back and forth. I've got a puppy I'm dealing with, so I apologize.
yeah, picks or fail.
So
Anyway,
it's not, you don't want to, because when you first started talking, I thought you were going to say, I don't want to give away my ideas for free online like this, but it's just overall you'd rather work on something more original.
Well, I guess just at this, like, you know, if the question had been what's your brand new character that you want to create, then I might have been like, well, maybe I want to create it before we talk about it online. But that is
Sure.
Yes. My question is right now, my brain didn't go, oh, I've always wanted to blah blah blah. It was more like my brain went, you know, like, and look, I'm lucky enough that, you know, got out of college and got to work with Jeff, and we got to work on a shit ton, and Scott got to work on a ton more than me, but I got to fulfill my childhood dream of drawing for Marvel and DC Comics and getting to draw a lot of my favorite childhood characters in my 20s. Like, you know, I got Hulk and Punch. I mean, it's like, could my career gone better? A million times better. But did I still get to do that? 100%. And then most of my animation career, you know, has been working on other giant corporate owned characters, but at least I was getting paid a union wage and getting health insurance and 401k and a pension and different stuff too. So it was kind of, but also because of that, I mean, I've worked on at least, I think I counted at one point, I think I've worked on at least 10 different iterations of Batman at this point in the animated universe. You know, like, and so like, so I think if someone's, so I read an issue or two, and I love all the passion that Scott Snyder and Nick Dragotta are putting into Absolute Batman, and I'm happy for their success. And I think they're clearly having fun. And anytime you're doing this game that we're doing right now, you're just doing a different version of storytelling, which is just saying what if, you know. So, but I realize, I'm like, man, if someone said, you know, Steve, what would you like to do with Batman, right? You know, like, I don't sit around thinking about, let me just draw Batman right now. I just, you know, because I've worked on so many different versions. I've seen so many different versions. I don't think the world is going, what we just need is another new interpretation of Batman right now.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think Batman deserves a rest. The reason I suggested that this week is because this is the kind of thing we get asked to do all the time as professionals. Like
yeah,
you know, and you usually wind up in a bake-off with like 3 or 4 teams coming up with stuff.
No, and look,
But I don't know how to bake.
I honestly,
Right.
I honestly am interested in Sean on, like, fuck Starbrand. I'm more interested in what Sean wants to do with Dollman. I'm already hooked.
Right.
He rides around on a dog.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I do think that this is, I mean, Steve, your point is 100% accurate, and I totally respect it and understand it and agree with it. But I think one of the reasons Sean did bring this up, and I thought it would be a fun one, is because this is something that if you're getting hired, you are going to be asked. Like when I did layouts or designs for, I've tried to be the lead designer on a bunch of shows. And one of them was G.I. Joe Renegades. And so I came up with all new style versions, different, you know, that the job was to pitch the idea of the show.
Right.
Well, that's a perfect example, just like what Sean said too, right? Like, having ended up working on that show and them having looked at you and a couple other, it was a bake-off, you know, and it was, then in the end they picked a French Canadian instead of
and they made the right choice. His stuff was his version of it was better. I thought I mean, I loved his designs. Clem was amazing, and he did his designs were amazing. I do think that and it was a great lesson for me because his designs would have made much better toys than mine would have, and I don't know if that was one of the deciding factors or not. But even I recognized when seeing his designs versus mine that they were much more. Mine were economical and story driven. His were cool driven, and they were better. It was a better choice.
Well, I don't know if they were, I mean, you did some awesome designs and it would have made an extremely awesome cartoon. And to use a word that we haven't used in a while, but I'm sure we hate it as much now as we did then.
Let's say toyetic.
Don't say it.
Let's say that Clem, and we're talking about the extremely talented and lovely human being, dearly departed and passed away now over 15 years, sadly. Clément Sauvé from Quebec is who Quebec, who did the designs for the season one and only season of G.I. Joe Renegades. And I always remember Clem being like, I don't think we're getting another season. And all of us that were working in-house at Hasbro at the time were like, nah, dude, we're fine. They said we're getting another season.
Yeah.
It's because we were all in-house, surrounded by all the ads all the posters that you always see all around the studio, you know, like when the company buys a whole bunch of ad space around. And so you're like, yeah. And then Clem was up in Quebec, was far enough away to be like, I'm not really seeing a lot of big push and support for this G.I. Joe thing out here in the real world.
Yeah. You know, at Warner's, when we were at Warner's, I got roped into development on Titans, which we all know about. I did development on Thundercats 2 different times. Once with Joaquin. I spent like 6 months on Buckaroo Banzai.
Oh man, that would have been great.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking. Aquaman 2 different times on Aquaman. Once where they came and said he's a teenager who wears seaweed.
Right.
And then outside of that, I did something else. Well, I did like a whole bunch of Speed Racer. I did like 2 full Speed Racer scripts for Speed Racer Incorporated. Yeah. One was supposed to be as if the original series never ended, and the other was supposed to be reboot the original series. You know, get asked this stuff. Oh, Robotech. I did some Robotech stuff. Something else. Oh, Archie. Well, I spent a year developing an Archie TV series.
Oh, well, I think it's a good topic that we're discussing, regardless of how deep we get into our ideas of this. I think I think this is it's a big part of the. Well, it's an interesting thing too, right? Because okay, I'm kind of, you know, after, we'll say over 20, that's fine, years in the industry of doing this, right? Like now I'm saying, look, I've scratched all those itches of, you know, like again, yes, look, if Marvel called me up tomorrow and said, we'd love you to draw the X-Men, you know, I'd figure it out, but that's different than when you're younger and you're sitting there and drawing X-Men comic book samples for free, or you're coming up with your own thing on Batman for free because that's what you want to do. But it is interesting too when you talk to, like, say, we've all dealt with kids in art school, or we talked, you know, like, that's the danger of the creative world too. I feel like if I started extensively teaching students again, right, like on the one hand, you do want to be teaching your students to be able to go out and only make their own worlds and create with their own voice and all this kind of stuff. But ironically, just to all of what you just were saying, Sean, like, that is not most likely going to be your entree and path to being a professional artist. Unless you are able to support yourself and then put all of your energy into only creating your own thing, like, say, Jeff Smith with Bone, or anyone else that we can think of that's an example like that.
Right.
most likely your path to being a professional writer, artist, or whatever is going to be, you know, you either like have to start out for free and build your own worlds for nothing in the hopes that you can then like find an audience that will buy that, or you have to like go in and learn to really be a good professional artist, and I'm including writer, actor, or whatever in that, like kind of working for the man in one way or another so you can make a living doing it, learning and honing your skills to then just come back in the end and then do, a la as Scott is putting up, then do Rogue's Kingdom.
Oh yeah.
You know, like,
Okay, so this is the one of the piece that I'll pitch to you on what you're talking about, Steve. And again, like Jeff just said, I agree with you 100%. And there's definitely a time and a place when you should be making sure that I think any creator that's out there should be focusing their attention on going for creator owned and doing that stuff. If that's all within their purview that they think they want to do it, you might have to break the habit of doing material for someone else or someone else's material all the time.
Right.
100% agree. But I went and did a bunch of stuff a couple years ago. Excuse me. And I wrote stories of X-Men and Alpha Flight and Teen Titans and stuff like that, purely for fun, purely for what turned out to me was, as I started them, I went like, oh, this will be fun. I'll just try this for on a lark. And I'll go on a walk and I'll think about the plot, and then I'll come home and I'll write out the plot or whatever. And I posted them and stuff. But what I quickly realized after doing one or two of them was like, this is really good practice.
Yeah.
This made it so that if someone had come to me before this and said, you want to write a superhero book, I'd be like, whoa, like a super team book or something like that has all these extra bells and whistles and stuff out there. I'd be like, oh, okay. And I'd have to like think about how in the world I would approach that subject or whatever going on. Now, after doing a handful of these things, and it's not even the million that Sean has done or anything like that, but after doing even a handful of them and doing some of my own books like Adam and stuff like that, but it's more practice in there. So going, okay, I've tried these things and I've practiced with this and played with this. And I think this is a fair subject to talk about to the public, the idea of working through these problems and figuring out these solutions. After doing this and after practicing on these various topics that are practically impossibilities, I'm never going to be, asked to write the X-Men or whatever else going on. But doing those practice rounds first, then they'll help me later on, either for A, anything that I might do for the majors, or B, it's stuff that'll be in my head now going like, oh, that was a mistake when I did this for this story. Oh, when I tried this out, I wasn't sure. But when I tried this and I went for this angle, I did it this way and I approached it this way, then it started making pathways in the grooves, like working out the drawing skills, like working out your muscles, like working out perspective, stuff like that.
Yeah.
No, Scott, I see. Look, you bring up, I think, a really good point. Because there's kind of within all these skills of storytelling are.
Look, I'm animating.
Yeah.
By the way, I mean, all of that drawing
it's a Marvel
is so good,
cartoon.
but particularly the hands are so great in that drawing, Jeff. Particularly the left hand, I think, is just such a great
Thanks, guys.
drawing.
That's
Well,
how
I
you
mean,
can
I'm
tell-
never good.
That's how you can tell it's not AI, because it has all the right number of fingers.
The right number of hands.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's at least, but to what Scott's saying, it's kind of like the great thing about it's hard figuring out how to build a world is a whole other skill unto itself. And so doing sample pages of Batman or Spider-Man, or doing a sample script of the X-Men, it's not unlike just say you want to write for TV. You know what I mean? Like, ironically, from what I understand, and Sean can speak to this a lot more, if you're trying to get hired for TV, they actually are going to want to see your sample pilot of the world that you've written and all that kind of stuff too. But I know a friend of mine from
not a pilot, but they want a sample script. You have to do some writing for free. There have been a couple times, like David Chase got hired on The Sopranos because they read the pilot for Mad Men, which at that time was unsold. Well,
and I know a friend of mine that got hired, on on a TV show, but by writing a spec script of that show, and they read it and they liked it, and then he ended up getting into the writer's room of that show. And this is 25 years ago when the writing, were the structure of TV writing was a little
when you could make a living at it.
And there, where there was writer rooms and stuff. But so it's like, so, very, very often the developing the ability to, be able to write or draw or tell stories well enough, like using already created worlds is a very great place to refine all of those skills that you need to refine, because building a world that people are going to be interested in is a whole other subset of skills beyond just then you also either drawing well enough to tell stories or writing well enough to tell stories,
Well, I also thought this would be a good exercise because this is a way you bring yourself into the work, into a commercial piece of work. Like if you how would you change this? Because I'm sure my idea of Starbrand is much different than Jim Shooter's would be. So,
okay. So look, I probably should have waited till the end, but I didn't. So I don't want to queer the whole story. So why don't we go?
We encouraged you.
And I hope you've learned something from that.
Yes.
It was a worthy discussion.
No, you had a really good point. I'm not going to make fun of you when you have a really good point.
Well, you should never let that stop you from making fun of me, and you never usually do. But
I'm growing and changing as a person, Steve.
Exactly. I take any opportunity I can to make fun of you, Sean, and I think that's for the best. But
it's been the core of our relationship for 30 years.
Let's hear about Starbrand and Pinocchio and whatever the hell Jeff said.
I would like to just throw in that I do think that I'm glad Steve is the voice of a different perspective on this, because one of the things I like about our show and how I think our show is different than other shows is we're talking about our love of comics, and especially old comics, and the reading of comics and the enjoyment of classic comics, but also we do have a lot of experience making comics, working on TV shows, writing screenplays, just TV, movies. Sean's done a lot more movies than we have. And this is part of the process of being a professional storyteller in this industry, is this conversation. Like, how would you do that? And you are going to get different opinions about how to go about it, and even if it should be done. And so I'm glad that Steve didn't wait to the end. I'm glad we're having this conversation now, because I think it's a much more real version of working than someone is just having a great time and they have no qualms about anything that they're doing at a corporation.
I really like the way Steve's sort of side-eyeing the conversation right now, going, wait, they're all agreeing with me? This is a trap of some kind.
Oh, yeah. This is
It's a trap.
It's a trap. All right, so which one of us wants to go first?
I guess
why don't you guys do rock, paper, scissors?
All right, I'll go first. So
okay.
The reason when I was a kid, I don't know why I picked it up. I must have found Human Fly. I guess Marvel picked it up and was doing it. I can't remember who was doing the art, but I loved it. It was
Frank Thorne.
Yeah.
Frank Thorne.
Oh, there you go.
Well,
That's why.
I thought it was Frank. I thought it was Frank. Or
sorry,
was it
Frank Robbins?
Yes.
Frank
Robbins.
Robbins.
Yeah.
Right. I apologize.
Which Frank Robbins is definitely, as a kid, I'm like, I don't know why I find this artwork so appealing, but I do.
He's just so good.
And now you look at it and like, holy shit, this guy was amazing.
He was a genius.
The entire 1945 continuity of Johnny Hazard, and it's amazing. And one of our coworkers stole from it liberally.
Oh yeah, well yeah. Anyway, so I loved it. I loved it as a kid, and there was something about the art was incredible, but there was something about the Human Fly. He had a cool red costume, and he was just a regular. He was like an Evil Knievel. He was just a regular guy. Like he didn't have any superpower.
He was a real person.
Oh, he was a real person. Oh yeah, I knew that.
He was
yeah.
Yeah.
And so the Human Fly would do all kinds of cool stuff. And so he was like a real live Spider-Man. And I always wanted to be Spider-Man. And but here's a guy who did it. And so there's something about that I really, really loved. And I loved those comics. And then they went away. I don't know why. I lost, I don't know how many of them even came out. But when I started to try, when I was doing sample scripts, I was trying to break in. You do your Wolverine fights, Wendigo. You do you do your Superman fights, like the toy robot kid, whatever that, you do a cool couple pages. They always tell you do a couple pages of your sample scripts to get someone's attention. And I remember the first sample script I ever wrote and drew was of the Warlord. And I drew it 11 by 17, and I drew it in blue pencil because I saw that's how John Romita Jr. did it way back in the day. And I was so dumb that I actually sent in the originals to. I mean, they were bad, no real loss, but I didn't understand the process. Yeah, but I sent in samples because that was what you're always told. It's like, oh, if you want to work on Spider-Man, do a Spider-Man sample or a Daredevil sample, whatever the thing is.
Right.
I'm sure you were not the only one who sent in original pages.
I'm sure not. But one of the things that I wanted to do was, like, I always thought, and I was told, if you can come up with an original idea for that character, send that in so it shows that you're creative, that you have the vision or whatever. And I came up with the Human Fly, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. That was going to be my pitch.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm so cool.
Right. And so it was exactly the same thing. He was still doing stunts. He was still traveling the world and walking a tightrope across Niagara Falls, or jumping a tank of sharks, or whatever the thing was. But wherever he went, he was actually on a secret S.H.I.E.L.D. mission, and his stunt work was the cover, so that when he goes over the falls in a barrel, but there's actually a Hydra base under the falls. That's how he sneaks in, right? Or he gets away by hang gliding off of something, or bungee jumping a weird way. Like it was going to be all cool spy stuff, but pared down to him doing like actual stunts.
What are you doing, Human Fly? I'm going in.
I'm going in. And the only person who knew that he was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. was Nick Fury. And so even...
This is a good idea.
Steve retracts the last half hour.
No, look, I mean, I feel like... Wait, can I just quickly interject? Maybe I have this wrong, but...
Sean, you said you weren't going to make fun of him.
Yeah. I feel like when we shared a studio and when we were at Marvel and DC, maybe I'm remembering this wrong now because it's been so long, but Jeff, I feel like you and I were sitting wrong, and this must have been, I thought this was my idea, but we talked about it, and now I realize with this, I feel like we talked about the idea, and now I think someone has actually done it, but they hadn't done it then. I think we came up with an idea of doing like the Punisher and Black Widow working for S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes.
Or something like that.
Where it was like,
like the Punisher, like basically Nick Fury and them went, look, dude, you're a loose cannon. We cannot allow you to just be out here, just killing people in the street anymore. But we have a use for your skills. So
we would like you to kill people for us.
Well,
exactly.
kind of like this is, I mean, I don't know if you guys remember the old Mission Impossible TV show, but this was kind of the vibe, right? They would have their crew, their regular crew, but then they would sometimes pull in an expert to like a mission, like had a special skill. And so, the part-time spy, I always thought was a super cool thing.
Well, it's all,
so yeah,
it's
that
also,
was my
I Spy. I Spy was they were traveling the world as a tennis player and his coach and their coach.
Oh,
and they were performing murders for the
CIA. I don't remember that at all. That's a great story. So anyway, that's Human Fly, Agent of Shield. That's the pitch.
I'm
That
in.
I
Well,
would.
you sold me. I'm down.
All right, so that one's mine. Who's next? What do you guys want to do?
You want me to do Starbrand?
Go ahead.
Yeah, do Starbrand.
So if you're not familiar with the Starbrand from the New Universe, there would be a white event, what was called a white event, and someone would get wind up with the Starbrand on them, and the Starbrand was basically Green Lantern's ring, but more
Right.
powerful. He could do anything with it. But what I really loved about that series was that the guy who got the power was a mechanic. And it's not necessarily somebody worthy. It's just somebody who fits some mold for them. And what I really loved about it was it dug into, he doesn't know how it works and he doesn't know how to do things. And the thing I always remember is he needs to go someplace and he's flying and carrying a AAA roadmap. trying to figure
yes,
out
I remember
how
that.
he's going to get
Right.
to where he's going. And that really appealed to me. And I liked the idea of a regular Joe getting ultimate power. And then later on, you found out that the builders, a race from a long time ago, developed the Starbrand as a planetary defense weapon. But I like the idea that there are other Starbrands out there, like there are other Green Lanterns, but not necessarily a corps of policemen. And that, you know, there are all these regular people on different planets who have this incredible power, and they're trying to figure out how to use it. I mean, there's no test like, you know, you're a man without fear, which I think the HBO series is going to address, that someone without fear is pretty much a sociopath.
Yeah.
You know?
Just like the light of a new day, hit me from out of the blue.
But it's I like the idea that he's got all this power, and it's almost like a regular dude becomes the Spectre, and he can do all these things, and you're not really sure what you're supposed to do with it. And maybe once in a while he gets some sort of message that he has to go do this thing, and he still doesn't know how to do it. Like, he's not even really sure how this thing works. And I like the idea of a character finding stuff out.
Yeah, totally.
What I remember the premise of the new universe at that point, you know, that I was the world outside our window, and it was them taking, why you've got that shot of drawn by John Romita Jr. of the Starbrand literally like with a map, is them kind of going, okay, you know, like the approach for supposed to be for all the books, and I feel that, you know, Starbrand might have been the best example of it. Also because JR, even though he's a great superhero artist, he was able to just shift into really trying to draw like the real world. Because the only super thing about Starbrand was at a certain point he had kind of and even his costume was more like an adaptation of those his mechanics overalls or something like that. So and so unless you're going to go to like Tony Salmons or something like that, there weren't a lot of 80s artists that could just like draw the real world and kind of actually have the real world more or less look like the real world. But so it, in a way, it was also poking some holes, but that's a perfect one. Like, you know, like, well, how the hell does Superman or anyone that flies know how to get around? They're like literally like looking down, you know, before even the concept of GPS practically at that point.
Right.
So,
and the thing was that really appealed to me was that it's this world without superpowers, and they don't, you know, learn how to fly, and they automatically know where they're going or how to do things. And I think that adds a lot of depth, and you can get a lot of characterization out of it.
Totally. Well, I mean, it's so funny, the idea that if you really saw a dude flying, you would lose your mind.
Yeah.
It would break people because like it doesn't make any kind of sense.
or you
And
just
then
be like,
if you
"Hey,
are
Jack."
that dude flying, it's even less sense.
Right. Exactly. Like, how am I, especially,
Yeah.
if you didn't like build the skill yourself, suddenly you had that power. That'd be nuts. That'd be totally insane.
Yeah.
So how would you?
So why
how
didn't
would
he
you bring
go
it back?
insane?
Yeah.
Well,
Did he
he
go-
did. He
Did he?
That's how the pit happened. I think he tried to get rid of the Starbrand, and sent a shot down and destroyed part of Pittsburgh.
Oh,
Okay. I'd only kind of heard the idea, the rumor, whatever, about how that pit story was brought together and why it was brought together. I never actually heard what it was about.
It had something to do with Shooter being fired, right? And then Grunwald trying to decide what to do with the line.
As I
is
understand it, John Byrne wrote that pit issue.
Yeah.
And it was done in like not the nicest sentiment.
I would like to at this point.
Because what does he do with the pit?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I don't remember.
It's just destroyed.
He destroys Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he can't be a hero. It's funny though. I do think it's interesting how much of the explanation for why did that happen in a story is not because that was the best story, but because someone was pissed or someone got fired or someone had some new, like one of the worst stories I've ever heard is Iron Giant got sandbagged because the new executive who got hired didn't want that movie to do well because he had nothing to do with it.
Yep.
And right. So
So I remember being in Gene's office for a meeting. Gene was the president of Warner Brothers Animation, and her looking at some reports and saying they spent $65 million promoting Iron Giant and spent every penny wrong.
Oh.
So, but that way he could go back and say, see, we spent all this and it still failed.
It still failed.
But you're putting commercials for Iron Giant on the NBC Nightly News.
That's incredible because I remember at the time because I think Sean and I were both still working at Warner Brothers at that point, and the blame was all put on the fact that like, oh well, Quest for Camelot didn't do well, and so therefore we're not going to spend that money again, and so there was a sense as if there was no money spent on it, but it's even worse if they actually like purposely spent the money wrong.
Well, and apparently Brad pitched Incredibles to Warner's, and they like, no, we don't want to do your
Dummies.
stuff anymore. And,
Dummies.
And even when it came out, they said we're not worried about this going up against our stuff because he failed for us.
Oh. Yeah. So like this like the meritocracy is definitely part of being a professional artist, but then also you never know.
Well, that reminds me of. Look, I haven't seen the pilot. I don't know if any of us ever will. But like, say, I know that they, after it's a very well-known, established brand at this point, and the fact that you had the main person willing to come back and do a Buffy the Vampire revamp, and then have an Oscar-winning, an Oscar-nominated, creator come in to do it and shoot the pilot or whatever, and then the weekend that your star of your show has a new movie coming out, and the weekend of the Oscars where your director has a film that's heavily nominated comes out, and you decide to announce then that you don't want to do the revamp because the guy in charge of making that decision never really liked the original show or watched it or really cared about it in the first place. It's like it's like how is this a good allocation of resources?
I was at plenty of Batman meetings where it was apparent that nobody there had any idea what Batman was about. Bruce and I were once asked, what's this Batarang thing? That seems awfully violent. Batman never had that before. And I start doing this, and he just grabs my arm and pulls me back down.
Right.
Well, I mean,
I remember,
Sean, you were there in all those meetings. I just heard about them, but it's like the fact that Batman Beyond turned out to be such a great thing that was popular then and has stayed popular now is essentially a total accident, basically because they luckily gave it to all the people that made Batman the Animated Series, because there's no reason. It sounds like the premise that the people coming and what they were asking and saying, like, there's no reason why it should have turned into a good show, right? Like,
and it's a great show. Batman Beyond's great.
What they came to us and asked was a show about young Bruce Wayne traveling the world training to be Batman. And Alan Burnett said, so you want me to do a Batman show with no Batman? Is that what you're asking me to do?
I mean, that's a very funny that this is revamp this character, but don't
Well, I
have
think-
this character in it.
Right.
Because speaking of Buffy, like when we were all, when I first came in to be working for you or with you, Sean, on the final season of Batman, the animated series New Adventures. Well, or I think I was when I first came on, it was the final season of New Adventures
It was budgeted as Superman, and then became Batman episodes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the new style of the final season of the new style of Batman, the last two seasons of Superman, and then I think literally on the Friday, I think I started work on a Monday, and on Friday, you brought us all into the conference room to tell us that we were working on Batman Beyond. But I think when that all started, Buffy fever was really big. Like I seem to remember that there being a lot of mentioning that they wanted. Could you guys make Batman, but make it like Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Yeah. That's why they were talking about young Bruce Wayne. But Scott, let's not cut Scott's time. Let's go.
Sorry.
Make sure we get enough. Of Scott.
Is it already 51? Oh, geez. All right, Scott, hurry up.
We can make it next
Don't hurry
episode.
up. Take your time.
Wait, forget hurry up. This is also like something in the you're brought in to do a thing. The executive talks about his kids and his dogs for 45 minutes, and then suddenly you're scheduled and you've got now 3 minutes to do the thing that you were supposed to have 30 minutes to do.
For your pitch.
I can't tell you how many times I drove from that Warner Brothers office on my lunch to go to like Fox or Disney or something and have a meeting. And I sat there for 15 minutes later, and the secretary comes out and says, "I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to do this meeting today."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It's I mean, there's one of the things I think is really interesting about being a professional. And like, so Steve and I became professionals in high school, right?
$15 a week, baby.
Yeah. 16, 17 years old. Right. So 40 years, right? About 40 years. So 80 years amongst us, and Sean and Scott have at least 80 years, maybe 100 combined.
35 this year.
Right. So it's and in that over 100 years of experience dealing with this stuff, the number of times where you just want to like, what am I doing? Like, why am I here? This is ridiculous. Why am I standing in this office? I remember being in a Spider-Man meeting for the new Spider-Man cartoon, the one that was going to be, it wound up being for kids, but it was supposed to be the not absolute, but
Ultimate.
Spectacular.
Ultimate.
it was supposed to be Ultimate Spider-Man. And I got hired I was supposed to be the lead designer. And then I remember being in a meeting with a bunch of Marvel people and animation people who had different ideas about where the cartoon should go. And they wanted to bring in a fashion artist, like a fashion designer to do his costumes and stuff. And they're like, oh yeah, and he's gonna wear these really tight shirts, and he's gonna have this stuff. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Peter Parker wears a baggy shirt and a sweatshirt and baggy pants because he has his Spider-Man outfit underneath. He can't wear. He's not wearing like Abercrombie and Fitch or Affliction T-shirts like you wanted to have. Like it's not Peter Parker. Needless to say, I wound up not doing that job. But
yeah. Well, they brought Joaquin and I to pitch that series. They didn't hire us either. So
yeah, it's funny. Yeah, so it's the amount of misfired bullets, right? Like,
yeah.
Well,
so
okay, Scott, we can keep going, or we can save
long?
Scott for next time.
I'm okay with going long if nobody else minds.
Scott can do it in 3 minutes. Let's go.
All right,
I'm
Scott,
trying
go.
to keep the dog from eating my chair.
Oh, good.
Fastest artist alive.
Yeah.
Pinocchio.
It's barely a pitch. It was just that tagline that I joked about, that he never wanted to be a real boy. So then, honestly, it's just the first stuff that came in my head. I think it needs 6 more drafts and rethoughts and everything else. But just the idea that it would almost be like the spoof horror ones that they're making nowadays, that they might make of like even Winnie the Pooh and make it bloody and crazy or whatever, was just the idea that Geppetto might be either by negligence or actual victimization attacked, was that Geppetto would die, and then Pinocchio would be on a revenge story.
Yeah, like Scott and I talked about this over pool the other day. Is like, so Geppetto gets killed maybe by the mob because he's witchcraft.
Who brings this? What? There's a wooden toy that's now alive.
Yeah.
Who's going to believe in this blue fairy?
So
Plus,
Geppetto,
it's like it's body horror, where it's kind of like it's like, wait, what's this flesh?
yeah.
That's part of the joke, Stones. Is then we talked about it that they could hit him and they could run him over or something like that, and then there'd still be a hand coming from Pinocchio, the wooden hand.
Yeah. And if he got torn apart, he still put himself back together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he like trying to stay away from the blue fairy because she wants to turn him into a real boy? No. If I'm a real boy, I can be prosecuted.
Yeah.
Honestly,
the blue fairy is
punchline that
actually
came up-
like a hit woman. That's because once she turns him into a real boy, then he can be killed.
Yeah.
Honestly, again, this being almost kind of spoofy feel. After Pinocchio goes through the revenge and stuff, while Jeff and I were still playing pool, I came up with the punchline ending, was that, all these people, the villagers, were not nice people, this and that, and Pinocchio exact revenge on whoever did it and whoever was involved or whatever going on. And then he winds up like Geppetto's place, probably half broken himself or whatever's going on. And he's like, like what's going to happen next kind of thing? Is he going to die there at Geppetto's place now or whatever? But as he enters or gets there, the blue light starts coming in, and Pinocchio had forgotten, or maybe even Pinocchio had started to believe it too, that it had all been lies and BS or whatever else. He was never going to be a real boy. This was never going to happen. All that stuff. Anyway, he crawls in and he's beat to crap, and then the blue light comes in over his rotted form, and then Pinocchio looks up and you see the blue fairy, and she's like, "Really? What in the world?" I think Jeff said her line was supposed to be, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
Have you ever heard? Do you know who Mitchell and Webb are? The British sketch comedy guys.
No.
They did on their radio show. They had a great TV show, but on their radio show, they did a whole bunch of Pinocchio sketches where Geppetto's on a date, and Pinocchio shows up. "Oh, Papa, what is this?" "He was supposed to be a chair." "Got it."
Yeah.
"Papa, why did you throw me in the fireplace again? It wasn't that cold."
Yeah. Good times.
Poor Papa.
Yeah.
I like that though, because it's instead of just doing Winnie the Pooh or Popeye as a slasher film because it's funny, it actually plays with the actual idea of the character and uses it to its advantage.
It really seemed, I actually really like that blue fairy ending, because it really does lay an end on there of like, you really weren't supposed to do that. It's not the way the story was supposed to go.
This is not what this wish was for.
Yeah, this is like the blue fairy should like wave her wand and like everything was gone and reset. This was, we've gone off the tracks, wrong universe, here we go. All that.
I work so hard on you, and this is how you repay me.
Exactly.
I went to bat for you. This was supposed to be a thing.
And this is how you, exactly. This is the thanks I get.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
Jeff,
agreed.
as much as I do love this cover.
Yeah. Yeah, Popo on the inside. Yeah.
I love Popo.
Yeah.
Popo was fun. A Doc Langur. I did a lot of monkey studies. Oh, look at him.
Hey, there he is.
Oh,
Hi, buddy.
yeah,
Oh,
that's not a
he's
foster
cute.
dog. That's your new roommate.
Oh,
That's Comet the
Shoot.
Wonder Dog.
Yeah. That's a good boy. All right,
Well,
fellas, we did it.
He's been chewing on my desk all night, so I'm not sure how good a boy he is, but I
Oh,
do like him a lot.
he'll learn.
Well, you guys did it.
No, but I think
Oh.
Steve,
I was a conscientious objector.
I thought you brought up. No, I thought those were really great points. I thought that was
Yeah.
a really good take on it, Steve. And you know,
Well,
how
Absolutely.
you know how often I insult you, so I really must think that. If I say it.
yeah.
Well, and of course, and you guys proved. Look, as soon as you started doing it, I'm like, oh, and then I started coming up with ideas too because it's a fun exercise, and I think really, you guys also just brought up a thing I think that the whole world is missing and is important to keep in mind now, right? Like, you're like, well, we were just sitting there playing pool, right? Like, so much stuff. I mean, creativity comes from when we used to be when you're stuck in line and when you're on a walk, when we all now have these phones where we're constantly, can be on social media or looking at audiobooks or, but our brains need wool gathering time, and even just the two of you guys, like probably a lot of people now wouldn't even play, playing pool, there is still a fair amount of you just sitting there when you're not doing anything and you're just watching the other, there's so many activities like that it's like we almost have to now actively seek out.
Right.
It's like, oh, let's go grab a coffee, and everyone has to keep their phones in their backpack
Right.
while we sit here and talk about, blah, blah, blah.
Well, again, so much of what we're doing, any sort of creative thing, if it's writing, drawing, playing music, whatever it is, it's play. It's got to have that level of play. What's his name? Cleese has that great speech that he gave that's been around on YouTube and everything that talks about like play is the absolute needed ingredient in any of this stuff to make any of it work. Because once you start worrying about the rules and start worrying about this and that, it kills the comedy, it kills the creativeness, kills ideas, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
You just have to have that safe space where you can play.
Right.
And the businesses we work in have so many rules put on us, like Steve was talking about, that you've got some, or what Jeff was talking about with we're going to bring in a fashion designer to make him look good. Like that's not even what this character is. You completely missed the point. It's
right.
Yeah.
This man was raised by his aunt and uncle eating wheat cakes. There's no fashion. He didn't even get pancakes. They gave him wheat cakes for God's sakes.
Yeah. With sawdust. When there was no crawdad, we ate sand. Right, Steve?
Exactly right. You ate what?
I had to walk a mile through school for a blizzard and with a baked potato to keep my hands warm, and that was my lunch.
Right. Well, fellas, so what should we do next week? Should we I'm currently working on trying to come up with a logo for a thing Sean and I are kicking around. And I would love to talk to you guys about what you think makes a good logo. How do you approach a logo? Because you guys have, Scott.
That's a great idea.
Sure.
That is a good idea. I was going to say, from what Jeff said, I was going to suggest we all write our own sea shanty, but it's probably better to do the logo thing.
Well, we can do the logo thing first and then the shanties.
Fair. If there's time allowing, we all do our own sea
Right.
shanty.
We'll do the season at the end.
I'm just going to do different lyrics to Sloop John B. So, that's all.
Right.
Musically, I'm a washout.
Yeah. But that's a great thing, by the way. Real fast, Scott, let's take a look at your. Hang on a second. Damn
Yeah.
it. Is it this
Somewhere.
one? There we go.
No. There
Yeah.
it is.
That's always one of my favorite of your covers. It's such
so
a great
awesome.
thing. Yeah.
It's so awesome.
He was fun,
Okay.
man. He's so much fun to work on.
Yeah.
Did you get
And you
any
do his
flack for that?
rocks great.
Did you get
Thanks.
any flack for that, Scott?
Flack for the cover?
Yeah, for like Sad Ben with bird poop on him.
No. Everyone that I've ever heard of, I mean, maybe it's someone out there. I'm sure there are people that don't like it, but I've never heard from anybody who said that, they saw it or whatever else going on. They have that same thing. And that was part of Jeff and my being into the whole thing. I forget. how exactly we started with that. If Jeff wound up getting that connection first, or if I had that connection to find out about that stuff. But we both immediately picked that kind of character, saying we both love the Thing and Ben Grimm because it's, you know, all the things that go wrong and he always gets shat upon and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
No.
So this was actually, and I had to draw up, we talked about this before with covers. I drew like 16 other cover ideas before I came up with this one.
Wow.
But then it stuck and it did what I wanted to do and that kind of stuff. And then I think we talked about this another time too. The bird poop that's on there was just like, I don't know, I was just playing with something. I don't know. I didn't even think of it as bird poop. I just thought of it as just like, you know, him with garbage and whatever going on. But then I found out after, when the first Fantastic Four movies were being made, back in the 90s, was that?
No, you mean the ones that have Jessica Alba?
Yes,
Early,
Yeah,
early
I mean
2000s.
that's early mid 2000s.
early mid 2000s. When those are put together, Jeff Johns told me later on that he at some point wanted talking to the people that were involved with making the movie. I don't know if it was the director or writer or whatever it was, but they saw this and they specifically did this. And it happens in the first, I think it's in the first movie or second movie with them, that he's on a bridge hanging out doing something and he's pissed off about whatever's going on and he gets shat on by a pigeon.
Oh,
I think it's brilliant. I can just see some executive going, well, we don't really want to see our character portrayed this way.
oh,
He's
sad.
a hero. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I think it's genius.
Yeah,
Thanks,
it's a
guys.
really good one.
All right.
All right,
Logos
fellas.
next week.
Logos next. Next week we do logos.
All right, see shanties next week. See you guys.
All right, guys, you're the best.
Toodles.